Are you getting married? Do you need resources? Sex Positive Christian has got them. Ask and ye shall receive. So, I've been listening to some different podcasts this week, and I found a really cool podcast called Save the Date Wedding Podcast, and I'll have that link in the show descriptions. This is a really cool podcast. Her, slogan is all things wedding-y, and she had on a guest. I don't recall her name, but she owns Rock and Roll Bride magazine, and it was really cool. There's a bunch of people, all kind of our age group, between 18 and 40, tattoos, beards, sweet piercings, just normal people within our generation, who need resources to get married. And whether it's finding a photographer, whether it's, being able to find, really any kind of resources that you'd like to find, or kind of have ideas on the type of wedding that you would like, that's there. And it's pretty awesome. I was really interested in the Save the Date Wedding podcast. Also because of the fact that it's done by an Aussie, and her accent's awesome. Just listening to Australians is the coolest thing, at least for us Americans. I don't know. It's kind of like hearing someone from the South. Whenever I listen to Bad Christian podcast, sometimes I have to, look over for a second to think, what was that word that Toby or Matt just used? Because I really have no clue sometimes with their accent. So I really enjoyed the Save the Date Wedding podcast. I've only listened to 2 of them so far. One of the guests that she had was a lady who has a website, Hitched in a Hurry, and that was kind of cool because her concept was taking the aura out of weddings within this constraint of looking down upon it with all the stress and all the things like that. So what she's able to do is kind of, give you resources and the ability to, hey, what if I want to elope? What if I just want to go out to Colorado or go to Las Vegas with my person that I'm with and get hooked up? And she's got that answer. I think it's really cool, and it's something to look down upon. I mean, if you don't want all the headache of doing a really big wedding, she's got that. And if you want to do a big one, she's got those ideas too. I'll have all these linked in the show notes for you guys to check out. So I went back into the Bad Christian podcast, and if you guys have ever listened to it before, some of you guys have followed me through that, some of you haven't. So the Bad Christian podcast, which I listen to, are Matt, Toby, and Joey. All of them have been in the band Emery, although Joey is not in the band anymore, only Matt and Toby are. Emery is like a hardcore rock and roll kind of band. They're kind of hard to put a finger on because they change a lot, and they're the different types of music that they do, and they're really eclectic. They've got a podcast where they have literally interviewed from Chris Carrabba from Dashboard. I think maybe that was Matt Pryor's podcast. It gets kind of confusing. There's so many podcasts to listen to. Frodis band, the guy from that. They've interviewed Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath, and he had the band Almost. He put out a new Christian worship album. I think it's under his own name, Aaron Gillespie. And they interviewed this guy named Dan, Pastor Dan, and he is the pastor of the Reverance movement. The podcast is Bad Christian Podcast number 17, Gay Christian and Pastor. With that is really interesting because they were going through and separating out religiosity and legalism and the love of Christ and your love for your fellow man. And the Reverence movement I find is really interesting because it's based in Boulder, Colorado. They're not asking if it's okay from the Roman Catholic Church or from Assemblies of God or name your big Christian organizations. They're not asking. They're doing. And There's on the podcast, you can listen to it. There's a couple out in Florida who found a pastor in Dan, found someone to lead them in what it means to live a life as someone who's a human. I find it really cool and really interesting. And you could check out their website, which is www.reverancemovement.com, and I will link that in the show notes. I got back some really cool comments on the first episode that we did, and here is some comments from a guy named Evan Lab. I asked him if it was cool to use his real name. That's his real name. You guys can follow him on my Facebook. He's really interesting ideas. So here's his stuff. Thank you for being open to my thoughts. For convenience sake, I'll just type it here, and you can do it with what you will. My view of sex in the proper context is very positive. Sex is something God created, and all good things come from God. But it is clear to me that God intends it for marriage. However, I think that God set it up that way so that we can enjoy it more. My church was actually doing a little roundtable type discussion tonight about sex, and one of the questions that came up, if we were already having sex, how can we stop? And through much dialogue, the one person who was married said something pretty interesting. He said that sex outside of marriage can only fulfill our physical desires, but sex is not only a physical act, but it is also a spiritual and emotional act. He mentions that he hears stories of how people are failing dating relationships turn to sex to attempt to save it. But that beautiful thing about marriage is that you have already made a covenant with God, and you will never forsake that person for the rest of your life. So there is true intimacy, comfort, and security in that relationship. Whereas outside of marriage, sex is just a self-pleasing physical act that leaves you wanting more and more and enslaves you to it. That's from Evan Lab. Personally, I do agree with him to the point of that, sex is something that's connecting, it's spiritual, it's something that is freeing and positive, and something that shouldn't be looked down upon. And within the church, or within, even myself or other people with podcasts or whatever it is, we all should be talking about it. We all should be using the freedom to be able to speak about it and the freedom to not shame someone. Whatever someone's personal things that they're going through within sexual relationships, that's their problem. And that's something that you should be able to support and help them with it. So even if it's going on a website with that person, to provide them with resources to get shacked up or find sex toys, or just being comfortable enough to share a beer with somebody or share some whiskey and just have a conversation, Have a conversation about what your love life is and what your sex life is. Why is it something that should be, put down in a bottle of some sort? We all should open up and just be more positive about it. I don't see what, especially within the Christian context of it, it is very lacking within sexual education. Understanding what is an STD, how do you treat it, what are the resources for you, can you just go to an ER and go get tested? Well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should go to a LabCorp or all around America. There's testing centers. You go in, you pay money, you get tested. And it's on you, and it's something positive. And if you wanted to know or you wanted to get treatment, then you can get treatment. But it shouldn't be something that is put in a closet that nobody talks about. Because that's the point of this podcast. We all talk about it. It's positive and it's fun. I'd like to hear about what your guys' favorite sex toy is. Throw it down. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Please check out our new SoundCloud page. So whether you want to listen to us on YouTube or SoundCloud, both of those things are options for you. And all you have to do is search Sex Positive Christian, and you can find us there. I haven't got on iTunes yet. That's a little bit more difficult because you have to get distribution. You have to pay for that. So maybe I'll start a Patreon page, and you guys can pay money towards the podcast, and we can put it on there. If not, that's on you. Good note, we got 70 people to listen to this podcast. That's 70 people that have chosen to give Sex Positive Christian Podcast a chance. So I really appreciate that. And this weekend, I'm actually playing a concert for my band, Key and Anchor. You guys can check out Key and Anchor. Key, like a key, Anchor, like throwing it out to sea, on YouTube. We have like 40 or almost 50 songs so far, and you guys could check those out. Please support us, please comment, and please subscribe to all of our stuff. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments. Sex Positive Christian out.